Okay, we are gonna get started as soon as the staff to the green light. I hereby call to order the meeting of the J County Finance Corporation. Today is May 26th, May. It is 11:34. Yeah. Our first item of business is a full order roll call confirmation of quorum.
President Julio Gonzalez Altamirano,
Present.
Vice President Jan Winning, Director Delete Becker, Director Delete Becker, Director Keisha Prince, Director Lisa Reams, Director Rebecca Weber.
Wonderful, we have a forum. Our next item is protocol communication. It's funny that we already made anything.
Gabby Garcia with Boston.
Oh, gosh. Right for the summer.
You can come over here.
Chair. No, stand.
Maybe you want to say? I'll be happy to.
Yeah, no matter what it is.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Hey, good morning, my name is Gabby Garcia, I'm an organizer with FOSTA, and I work with the Neighbors of Rosemont Tenant Association for almost 3 years. So again, I'm very excited about this new stage that you all are entering, and you all know that one of the benefits that we got for tenants at Rosemont was this big bucket of money that we kind of had to put on the back burner while things got sorted out here. But finally, we're in a position with good staff to do that and move it forward. And so I'll be working with the tenant board members, also with the previous steering committee at Rosemont to kind of figure out how we're gonna move that forward. I know that talking to Lisa and Keisha, we identified like some of the, like, who trying to figure out like who we're gonna help, right? It's there are new tenants there are tenants that moved away and never got any of the benefits, and so there's gonna be a lot of figuring that out, but I know that definitely they wanna take care of anybody who was impacted before the storm and had to leave because the conditions were so bad. They wanna help tenants that stay there because even though they got credit and gift cards, like really their situation hasn't changed very much. And so there'll be a lot of work moving forward to get that straightened out, but we're just getting started and we're moving forward.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay. Let's move to item 3, our consent agenda. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Anybody want to make any corrections in the minutes? Director Weber and okay. Your motion to approve the minutes. Seconded by Ms. President Weber. All those in favor say aye. Okay. Okay, before we move on to the action agenda. It is a moment of personal privilege. Ms. Reams, congratulations on the completion of the term for that privilege. As consulted with Ms. Reams, will she indicated a cupcake into the appropriate compensation? Brought other little cupcakes for the rest of us. I will pass these this way and then pass them up this way. Please, directors, feel free to have one. Non-directors, if there's any left over. Only one, please. in all seriousness, thank you, Lisa. Obviously, the last few years have had ups and downs, and moments that have been hard, but we're in a better place, stepped up. For some of us, you know, this is sometimes, you know, fun and engaging and easier than it is for others, and so I really appreciate that you make the time, stay engaged, stay involved, and you're contributing to all the talents. So again, congratulations. Do you want to do a little speech, or are you?
After I cry.
Okay.
Never already, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm proud to be here today. Thanks for this opportunity. And I want to continue to serve this office. Needed here. Thank you.
Thank you. You may double dip. But thank you again. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you. That concludes this, personal privilege. So we will move to the action agenda. And our first item is officer selection, secretary treasurer. And I was hoping that, staff would tell us a little bit of how we're gonna handle this, because it will lead into item B, resolution 2024-7. That's great. Can I pass it on to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So in consultation with council, it recommended that as we previously had the officer of secretary or executive secretary, entrusted to the executive director of the housing authority, that it would be appropriate, to so name me at this time. And so I'm not sure actually which resolution is which, so let me name those. 1A formally appoints me as interim executive director and gives me signature authority for the board. So that, and does so retroactively, because we hadn't done that last month. And the other names me as, executive secretary treasurer. That helpful? President.
It's helpful to me, but I have been immersed in this, and so I want to make sure that the rest of the directors can have some other basic questions answered. The context, as you recall, is we're doing everything by book. Our chapter 394, as you will discover, mentions the 394 corporation has a secretary and a treasurer. Our bylaws have indicated that the individual should exist. In the past, we have put those responsibilities and the secretary responsibilities in a staff member in the spray indicated. So we are trying to resolve it by having the staff be the secretary and the treasurer. The secretary, in my view, is the minutes person, and the treasurer has some very specific duties, mostly relevant notes, and so it is more appropriate for a person that has time to have those readings. This will not be a change from how this vintage board members have done things, but I want to make sure everybody understands.
So we're not addressing the treasurer piece of this today, we're just addressing the secretary.
I believe the resolution we have, if we could scroll down to the part.
Was there the second resolved?
That is revised. This is the revised.
Yeah. Maybe I'll make it bigger.
Yes, if you go to resolve, the end is Friday, and shall go to Arthur. Treasurer and the next secretary is appointed to our operations. Okay.
Okay.
Do we have this one up on board?
Just one on board.
Yes.
It will be.
Okay. Okay. Well. And now. That's a question.
Yeah, I just want to say how much I appreciate our interim executive director taking on this clarification task.
and doing due diligence, there was some research into comparable, local, housing finance corporations throughout Texas. And this is a common practice, so we just want to make sure the board, we haven't gone out of a strange one here. And I really think it's great for her, students to make it perfectly clear.
One last comment on this from the research that Director Winnie helped us do. It does seem that once we have a in-house CFO, finance director, a finance position, we may want to revisit this, and as the board, we can change who the officer is or strip someone of their officership. Including the president. You know, at least. And we may decide to redesignate. For the time being, this is the arrangement that makes sense after some discussion. Seeing no further discussion, this would be the appropriate time to make a motion to adopt resolution at the SHFC 2024-07. So moved by Director Buck, seconded by Director Becker. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Extensions. The record reflected the resolution is passed. Congratulations to our new signature authority empowered interim executive director, treasurer, and secretary. In keeping with our past action orientation, so that we can discuss our deals at length, we are now going to move on to our deal resolutions. I want to begin with Langdon today, if that's okay, Mr. Long. So this is a resolution at the SHFC 2024-10, and will you be presenting this? Yes, okay. Pull that.
Langdon, okay.
Good morning, board.
No, it's
Oh, there's a gentleman named Matt.
Yes.
the one that's.
We have my, On
Did you
line, we
send?
have Mr. Matt Steinberg, and he is principal with Langdon. And he is here to help if there's anything that he can contribute or questions that would like to ask him. The board would like to ask him any direct questions.
Hey guys, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm a big face-to-face person, so I wanted you guys to at least see me. I actually can't see myself on the screen, so I don't know what I look like to you guys, but in most other circumstances, I would be there in person to at least look you guys in the eye and shake your hands. But I just wanted to thank you all for taking the time to hear Keith out and consider the Langdon at Walnut Park for this program.
So we couldn't hear very well from Matt, but let me just. So I've done this.
Let me know when you guys can hear me.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Now I can hear you. Did you guys hear my 2-second speech before or no?
Hold on just a moment.
No problem.
Is he ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Keith is ready.
Okay.
So, can you tell the board who's joined us, even though we're having issues with?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
This is Langdon Walnut Park. This is a new transaction for the SHFC. It is an acquisition of existing property. The property is located at 1201 North Lamar in Austin, Texas, between Breaker and Farm. And the unit, the size of the site is just a little over 18¼ acres. Total number of units is 277. The number of affordable units is 140, so we're about 50%. The affordability mix, 56 units at 60%, 84 units at 80%. And this is again, this is a workforce housing transaction. Our development partner is Landon Street Capital. The tax base public benefits score was a 90.5. The public benefits score was a bonus points stated at 96. Those of you that were at the board meeting last month will recall that this property was put, was held back from requesting approval of the resolution because their purpose score was lower than we would like for it to be. We went back with Hilltop, our financial advisor, back to the developer, and asked if there was some ways we could rework the deal to get us to the public benefit level that we were seeking. And they were able to do that. And the manner in which that occurred is that they were able to boost our percentage of the cash flow from 7 to 11%. They were able to boost our sale participation on the back end of the transaction from a sale participation percentage of 4% to 6%. They were also willing to increase our annual lease payment from 15%, excuse me, from 12% to 15%. It is a three-story garden style building. Unit amenities come with clever house, full kitchen, bar, mountain and creek view veranda. This is a 24-hour fitness center, indoor spa, steam room, sauna, 2-tiered swimming pool, gas grills, private deck, attached garages, carports, and storage units, controlled access, gated community. This truly was built to be a Class A property back when it was originally built in, I think 2016 is when it was constructed. Langdon acquired the property in 2021 and brought in RPM Property Management. And RPM Property Management, although we do not have any existing properties in the portfolio which they manage, they are the number 6 property management firm in size within the nation. They have been on this property since the acquisition in 2019. The current occupancy of the property is 95%, and for the last 12 months, it has remained 95% each month. The tenant program services will be provided through Veritas Impact Partners, a nonprofit that focuses solely on resident services. They will have on-site resident concierge available via text, telehealth, tutoring services, banking app that can act as an investment vehicle. Property managers are geared for resident experiences. If you look on the website, this is a huge focus of what they do, is focusing on the residents and the needs of the residents as opposed to the needs of the budget of the property. And obviously at a conference yesterday where a developer of some of the high rises in downtown Austin was speaking, and this is exactly what he pointed to, was that the one of the keys to keeping people within your property happy within your property is focus on their needs, and their needs tend to take care of the bottom line needs of the property. The location and neighborhood, as I said before, it's on North Lamar, overlooking Walnut Creek. It's directly across from the 293-acre Walnut Creek Metropolitan Park, and has over 15. The park has over 15 miles of natural walking trails for hiking, mountain biking, all kinds of different sports. The major thoroughfares are I-35, Mopac, 183, so it provides easy access to a lot of major importance in the area, and access to shop. It's close to the domain, it's close to our freedom, and not only that, but it's also close to all the retail that's going in along I-35 as you head north. Commissioner Report Precinct is Precinct 2, which is overseen by Commissioner Bridget Shea. Financing. This is workforce housing and talking about for equity and bank financing. The original acquisition cost of the property back in 2019 was $80 million. The per unit development cost was $288,000 per unit, The current debt to value is 70%, which is a healthy loan to value ratio. The HFC role will be general partner, landowner, and general contractor. We will contribute the property tax exemption and the sales tax exemption for the property. The debt service coverage in ratio in year one is 1.54, which essentially means that they have $1.50 for every dollar of debt that needs to be serviced. And when you look out at the end of the 15-year pro forma, you have a debt coverage ratio of 2.18, which means there's $2.15 for every dollar of debt that needs to be serviced. Present value of the tax abatements is total value of the tax abatements is year one, 425,562. Excuse me, rent reductions is 425,562. Total value of rent reductions over years 1 through 15 is $7.9 billion. The fees to the SHFC over the projected 15-year pro forma is $11.1 million. And the projected cash flow over that 15-year period is $5 million. We've had no previous activity working with Langdon. However, they do have several properties here in Austin. And this is a new partnership relationship for the SHFC, which we are always looking for as good partners. And let's see, if we could go back to the unit size, the one right before this one. Thank you. This property is composed of one bedroom and 2 bedroom units. 155 units for 1 bedroom, 122 or 2 bedroom, total 277. 30% of the units will be set aside for people at 80% of AMI. 20% of the units will be set aside for people at 60% of AMI, and 50% of those units will be at market. And I believe that concludes my presentation on the property. I will, well, the last page, I did want to cover a couple of things here. When you go through this is public benefit analysis. And when you go through the public benefit analysis, it has some of the numbers that I have given you just a few minutes ago, but it does break down each of our revenue sources. This includes the 15-year amounts for reduced rents of $7.9 million. There's an acquisition fee that we will receive up front of $600,000. The annual lease payment calculated out for the 15-year pro forma is almost $5.5 million. The partnership management fee over that period is $547,000, almost $548,000. Again, cash flow is based at 7%. Total value over the 15 years is projected to be $4.5 million. And if we were to participate in the sale of the property, should go to that capital event. The underwriting is estimating approximately $5.7 million from back cash to the Strategic Finance Corporation. So total value of what we're getting in this transaction over 15 years is $24.7 million. And I know that's a lot of information, but I am happy to answer any questions that you have on it. And in addition, we have Matt available to answer any additional questions that you might have.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Keith, thank you so much for putting that together.
Repeat or summarize what he says. Sorry, man.
Sorry, what did you say?
We can hear, we're having a hard time hearing you. I don't have a speaker, and I do have my speaker on my computer all the way up
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Can you all hear over there? No?
So let's maybe move to board discussion, and then if we have any specific questions, we'll let you
Unless.
play telephone.
Do what, Jan?
I just wonder if he was about to say something that we know. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Any questions? Or whoever.
I thought that I heard you tell us that we boosted the cash flow from 7 to 11%, and it may just be that what I have in Word will be a slide.
Braxton Parsons, so talks about it. That's correct. We had, there was a lot of movement within the fees. I think this slide just didn't get updated. It is an 11% cash flow participation.
Just because sometimes I come back and look at these presentations, can we get the news from the yes?
Perfect.
Any questions?
Yeah, first to staff, I just want to say, wow, yay, you're breaking the ground with the workforce, housing developments, and very interested in hearing from our prospective partner when we get this volume up. We have to develop a lot of policy about how to understand and evaluate these proposals, so I'm kind of going into new territory here. But I do know that we want to partner with folks that share our mission, that are themselves mission driven partners. So I have a couple of questions, and one is about the Matt. This is actually a question that you can weigh in on, but I'm going to direct it to our executive director, Ms. Gray, about the choice of property management. I've done some initial research into it. The ratings aren't fantastic. Some are, and Better Business Bureau in particular has some concerns. And so I wonder, in the absence of a policy, and this is no reflection on reviews you've made without policy, this is on us as a board. Some thoughts about that property manager, and I know you also have supplemental services by Veritas, which I understand may be different than in the occasions where those ratings were made. But I'd like to just check with our executive director on this thought.
Certainly. So in general, I will invite Mr. Hoffauer to chime in here as well. If we look for partnerships with folks who are experienced in this space, and I think I mentioned to you, one of the questions for me about the complaints is how many complaints compared to how many units they have in operation and under management, right? It's thousands. So that's a question. You're right that we don't have a policy. In this particular case, as I understand it, they have been operating the property. It's in very good condition. And additionally, the occupancy has stayed very high, which I think is a good indicator. I believe, Keith, you let me know that we've been at 95% for the last year, which is higher than we're seeing in the market. So I think it does certainly bear some discussion in terms of what we look for as a fractional owner. Of course, the developer has the primary decision-making authority in this space. So Matt, were you able to hear some of that?
Yeah, I can hear.
Else you'd like to add?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
I'll relay it if they can't.
Okay. First and foremost, RPM, we have a fantastic relationship with. As you so nicely put it, they've been managing this property for us since we bought it now 3 years ago. Our reviews on this specific property are, I think, 4.3 stars. I checked this morning. We have hundreds of reviews over those 3 years. We also have a larger portfolio that has similar reviews with the same management company. But I also want to stress, we don't have any ownership stake in RPM. If ultimately they're not doing a good job and it's not meeting our partnership with strategic standards, which I think it will, but if it's not, we're happy to have those discussions. We have other property management companies in other states, but I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that I I do think they're doing a good job. We also have a heavy focus on our resident experience. I think it comes through in the reviews. We were given the Community Engagement Award by the Austin Apartment Association, which is a third party not affiliated with either of us. Our resident services, we have resident events every 3 weeks in order to provide a good experience for our residents. And I think it translates into not just the reviews, but the actual property experience. So again, I'm hoping that Strategic is a long-term partner, not just in this deal, but in other properties. I know we have the same focus as far as the resident experience goes. If at any point they're not meeting that experience, I'm happy to have those discussions with my partners, meaning you guys. So I think everything is good. I'm confident. I'm there every week. I was there 2 days ago, but I'm always open to discussions.
Thank you so much. Will you bear with me? Would you like me to summarize? Okay, great. So Matt shared several things with us. One, I think it's just that their experience has been very positive at the property. He looked at the reviews for the specific property, and where it has like 4.3 star reviews. They do use them in their larger portfolio and have had a positive experience. But he reiterates that if they don't have an ownership stake in RPM, if they're not satisfied or SHFC is sensing concerns, they have other property management partners that are options. But again, the experience thus far has been very positive. They have or are about to receive an award for the Austin Apartment Association. And Matt, is that for this specific property?
Yeah, we were nominated. We didn't win it. Just for the record, we were top 3. We didn't win, unfortunately. I don't want to say that we won.
The property.
The property was found.
Yeah.
And added that one of the things, the Veritas is very active and sort of investing in a tenant experience. They have tenant events every 3 weeks.
No, that's not Veritas. That's us. That's RPM,
RPM.
and Langdon Street Capital. Veritas is not on site yet. We were waiting to bring Veritas on. They're prepared with you guys, but that's just RPM.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. RPM is doing the events every 3 weeks. As we shift the financing of this deal, then Veritas will be brought on.
Correct.
Additional questions on this?
I had like a really high level explanation of like how acquiring an existing property is different. What we're doing differently than.
Yeah, so we can receive them. Who wants to give it a shot?
I'll give it a first swing, and I'm sure other staff will chime in. So I think there are a couple of ways to look at it. One is that we're securing affordability in this property, which hasn't necessarily existed before, right? So by virtue of coming into the financing, we're getting those set asides of 60 and 80% units, which did not previously. Now, we are giving a tax abatement for the property, right? Which means that the property comes off the tax rolls. We can have long discussions about that and probably will eventually about what that means as a public policy move. Of course, it matters. We are also a revenue capped city and county. And so, the question is how much it would have added or how much we're going to be taking away. And of course, this approach, while it's not a new property, it means that we can have an impact quickly. I mean, those are the main differences I see, Keith or and
I would agree with your comments as well. There is obviously the creation of affordability is dynamic. This is the type of property that historically you would not find affordable units in. You had the opportunity to go through the information. It is an extremely nice property. It's very well constructed. It's architecturally very well designed and set in its place in its site from an architectural standpoint. So Residents really have the feeling of, a strong feeling of home in the property. I've been on the property 2 times, and, it has held up well, it has performed well, and I think that a lot of that over the time since it was constructed is because of the quality and the amenities that have been brought and the management companies that have been in place. And I take your concerns about making sure that we're partnering not just with developers that are strong, but with property management companies that are improving and have a good track record to go by. And that is absolutely something that we discussed with our development partners when we are having initial discussions. I brought that up in my initial discussion with Matt on this property. And, there are, while we may not be reaching it as deeply, but from a portability standpoint, as we will be able to do some of our other workforce developments, this property provides us, because it is an acquisition, it provides us with an opportunity to start generating revenue early, as opposed to waiting for our new construction deals, which are probably going to be 2.5 to 3 years out. So we are looking for 2 things, and I'm certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going down 2 tracks. One is new construction activity for the future creation and preservation. We're also looking where we can for solid acquisition opportunities of existing properties that we feel will perform well for us and can begin generating revenue in the short term. This is one of those properties. And that's kind of our rationale for looking at property of this type. And I'm going to answering the questions for you.
That's enough of the answer. So that was great, thank you. So Matt's company owns this property now.
Yes.
So Matt's company wants the tax payment. And so the property's not changing hands, right? It is changing hands?
Control is not changing,
Okay,
but several, so
We will come in as.
okay, so a development is a bundle of economic ownership pieces. The land. Other parts of real estate business, general partners tend to have a bit more oversight and control over things like selecting the properties than our version of general partner. We also are going to become the landowner.
Yes.
But we do not have sole control or ownership over what can happen on the land. As a matter of fact, we're going to give that to the owner of the structure, which will remain Langdon. And in Langdon's chain, Langdon probably has equity investors and there's debt probably, et cetera. So all of those entities also have aspects of influence. So what we are essentially doing through a transaction, we are taking some things and we are buying some things. We're taking ownership of some pieces of the bundle and we are providing the abatement. That's really the source of the economic value. The financing is the word that we will use. And that changes their economics because right now they have an expense that goes away. And in exchange, we are buying what in other jurisdictions would be called rent stabilization.
That's very helpful.
Sorry.
Can we put the figure on the amount of taxes abated?
It's the purple table, the second purple table.
Correct.
And as you recall, this is the key table, always look at this table.
The value of the taxes abated over the 15 years is 27.4 million. The value we are getting back one way or another is 24.8 million.
So that's calculated, so what we don't know is future taxes, I mean, that's something that's unknown.
Okay.
What we do know are the current taxes on the property. So what we've done is we're taking the current taxes and increasing those 3% annually, which is the current industry standard for HFC. Additionally, I think it should be pointed out to the board that we are using, Matt and Langdon are currently disputing the appraised value of the county. The current, Matt, I think you said what we're using here is 77.5 million for your assessed value, which you are confident you will be receiving, which the reason we would kind of went ahead with that as well as their lender and connecting providers have also signed off on using that. Matt's actually confident we're going to be able to negotiate that down and put the 7, so it might be a lesser tax burden that are in the tax rules.
Those are all good things for us. When we develop,
Right.
just to be
Right.
clear, so
Better
if it's
figure.
worth less and there's less taxes being abated, the ratio would benefit for agreements. Although if, so cash flow, it will be fine, furnish management will be fine, acquisition will be fine, so yeah, so everything on this one will be fine, because some of the deals we discussed are cut is based on the abatement size. But here, if I'm reading this correctly and back correctly, it's based on the actual economic activity.
Yes.
And that in part is why Director Rodriguez, one of the people who supported us getting Hilltop, is why we got Hilltop, to kind of give us a little bit more, kind of local depth, to be able to look at the numbers and maybe a little bit more risk. Did you have an additional, who had the floor, was it?
I was.
Okay, did you have an additional question?
I did, just to circle back to our executive director, based on the comments I've made about RPM and response from Mr. Steinberg, how would we expect to report back on this if at all? What do you foresee as being relevant and appropriate?
Right. So I think, as you know, we have lots of policy to develop, as well as infrastructure to develop. And what I think I'd like to do is to try to summarize that with the executive committee or perhaps real estate committee and really talk about, how are we prioritizing these and triage them? Because I'm really, I think we're really excited about all of the direction that we get to move in, and we also do it all at once. If you like, we can do that reporting through the committee structure, and prioritizing. If you are asking us to come back to the board with a report out on that, we can, work toward a timeline.
Can I jump in on this one? We're gonna talk about it under the occupancy management report when we get to it. I think there's a general issue we have, where we have this big portfolio of assets. And we're kind of in the mix of these property management discussions. But we are not, and we wanna be a little more intentional about the property management. So I have some things to add to that. I do think the full board would benefit from knowing what's going on with our property management vision. At the same time, as we all know, we don't have the same level of influence or control on these types of deals and these types of assets as we did, say, Rosemont. And so we have to calibrate what we ask for. Moreover, if and then I'll give my extended comment here. The challenge about being aggressive with property management is, what is the median property manager like? What is the property management model in America like? And so you can say, oh, I don't like A, let's replace them. But B, C, and D have the same model, the same economics, and ultimately deliver the same kind of treatment. One of the things that we have talked about a little bit, but are not a financial decision yet to pursue, is we need to develop X, and X is the mission driven at scale, high quality entity. Both for things that we care about and to provide the languages of the world an option, because it's easy, we can be like, A is bad. But they have to go and procure, and the options that they have to procure are difficult. As part of that, one of the things that we know from our experiences, and some folks know much better than others, is, yeah, RPM is so Roscoe is this thing. This big corporate entity. The human being potentially mistreating one of the people and one of the properties is not the CEO of Roscoe, is not the worst performer of Roscoe necessarily, or the best or the medium, it's just a person at the property. And so sometimes we can get into this dilemma of a big entity has certain ratings or certain perception. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Then there's the actual individual, right, at a wild horse doing stuff. And we kind of have to take an interest in that, separate from how do we feel about the entities. This is a significant challenge. I would say it is the thorniest challenge. And because we don't have a lot of control. You know, market, I think most people would provide, would assess, provides a certain kind of a product, with certain kinds of economics, which dictates certain kinds of outcomes. And we are just getting our bearings of a lot of this stuff. So I want to make sure that we have an extended and decisive policy discussion about it. One of the things in the exchanges that I've heard is there are no clearly quantifiable pieces currently in our policy that allow us to say good or bad. And it's hard to get very granular about a Lincoln or a Roscoe or what have you up here is very different from the more tough battle at the building level. What's happening? Those of you that have been with us for a while from Rosemont remember how many property managers that we go through with Capstone? Half a dozen? A dozen? Yeah, and so we talk about Capstone, but it was really like a human. And Capstone had their structure, but we were worried of dealing with the human. It's a real challenge. And so that doesn't mean we shouldn't do something about it and be the best and smartest, but it also means we have to properly understand the problem. And what I would say to conclude is the problem is not any one entity is good or bad, and it's that straightforward. This is a area of endeavor in American housing economics that has a model that is very incompatible at times with what our values are. The good thing is we are doing this abatement. And one of the things we can decide is we will sacrifice fees in exchange for certain kind of property management that we feel confident about. The reality is, so today, there's no property management rights. Let's build a bunch of fees for this. It might exist, it might be out there, I think there's a model to discuss, but it's a tricky one. Maybe we'd like to respond to anything that I said or
I appreciate the contextualization of this problem. I feel ready to approach this problem, and I want to make sure we don't forget about this problem. And yes, I don't have a lot of tools in my tool chest other than Better Business Bureau that popped up with 12 other options that were run together. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their criteria are. I'm just checking in here and hoping that we can keep an eye out for this. Second.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Matt.
A big reason I'm here today is so that you can look me in the eye and I can look you in the eye. I'm not a nameless face behind an organization. If you guys want to keep your eye on the level of commitment to our residents, I am entirely open to doing that. We have a 30-day cancellation policy with our property management company, but I also am confident that you'll see the same thing that I am seeing, that our resident experience is top-notch. But to go a little bit beyond just our existing property management company, we're also bringing in a supplemental to have a resident concierge, tutoring service, tax preparation, and a lot of other things that go beyond just the typical call of duty. So I hope we're going to work together as partners on this, and I'm happy to keep an eye on it with you.
Thank you so much, Matt. I'll try to summarize what you said, and I may editorialize a little bit. So I think, I think that it is true that we want to think about how we look at property managers as we come into our deals. But also our primary relationship is with our developer partner, who does typically control the property. And so one of the muscles that we need to further develop as an organization is, what does asset management look like for us as an organization, and monitoring, what's happening in our properties. And the relationship with our partners is really critical there, right? So we're looking for partners who, as Matt says, on property all the time, who's watching it, who's watching that performance, and with whom we can problem solve, et cetera. So, I think the commitment from Langdon is to continue doing that at this property. But as he said previously, if things change on property, then they problem solve in collaboration.
I'm here. We can see each other. You can always call me if there's an issue.
We can see you even though they can't hear you very well. So.
But tell them I'm available. They can call me.
We're on our way to 6,000, and if we do everything right, we'll be at 10,000 or 20,000 someday. So the issue is not that you're not here, it's that we will not be with you. And so for us, we need to develop this scale. But I appreciate you being here. Is there anything else people want to ask on the side?
Just wanted to finish up with, do you have any recruitment for Section 8 voucher tenants to be available to those vacancies that you do have? Do you have any process for attracting and advertising for Section 8 voucher holders?
Were you able to hear that, Matt?
No.
I'll repeat it. The question was whether you have any process for outreach, or recruiting and processing of people who hold Section 8 or housing choice vouchers.
To be honest with you, I don't. This is a newer experience for us. We're trying to build out our affordable housing group and our whole affordable housing portfolio together. I don't have an existing process in place, but I just want to stress again, we're partners. Like, we can go through and figure out the right systems together.
Thank you. So the answer is not at present. This is a fairly new space for them, but I'm happy to partner. That's
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. It was nice to meet you, Mr. Steinberg.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Professor?
I have 3 questions.
3 questions.
Okay, Hilltop, you said that it's well constructed. What did you review? What do you base that on?
Very well constructed.
Well constructed.
The property
Yes, the
I
buildings.
did not say the property is well constructed.
He did. He said it's well constructed, well maintained.
keep it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He said the key.
That's okay. I'm resident on my business property where I have built the property. I have also deleted this on it. And I have some background experience in construction. So it is basically putting my eyeballs on it and making that assessment. One of the other things that I would like for us to discuss going forward is the possibility of including third-party needs or third-party fiscal need assessment on our acquisition properties. That is not uncommon, and it would be something that I would like to see us just putting in place going forward.
Okay, what would that third party do? A need assessment?
Fiscal need assessment.
Physical needs.
We have no loss runs in the 3 years we've managed it. There's through the winter storm, every time the temperature changes, we've had no issues whatsoever. If you want to come take a tour of the property, it is beautifully maintained and constructed. We're happy to do so.
Thank you, Matt. If I heard you correctly, you said they haven't had no losses, even through the weather, et cetera, and invites us to.
Correct.
Okay, then number 3 is answered, past financials. Keith or Hilltop, did you review the past financials and then compare them with the projections?
We have prepared the financials that they have provided us, plus what Hilltop does, and correct me if I'm wrong. They take those financials and they underwrite them based upon the experience that they are seeing in the market with similar developments and what current market conditions are. Again, I would say that for this, in this case, they've only had the property since 2019. So they've got a few years of underwriting, a few years of financial history that they could provide to us. But basically, we're looking at what the property is doing right now and having our underwriters compare that to what they're actually seeing in the market and using their indicators to make their projections for the profile.
The bigger thing that we're looking at really is the future projections for the property, because the past financial will show the current market of the property. We're adjusting the rents from drastically moving forward. So we want to ensure that the project is feasible, the property is feasible, moving forward with 6% units and 8%, which they are, when Keith was, but really got that coverage ratios from the current property.
Okay, so you've looked at the past, you've projected the future based on market, looked at their performance, you're content with the numbers. I think that's the end of my questions.
Okay, Director, thank you. Any other questions from the director? Director Weber, no. All right. So now is the time when we decide what we want to do. The staff is presenting this as a deal that meets our workforce terms for action. Director Winnick, do you feel comfortable with the action today?
Thank you.
Is there a motion to pass the resolution?
I motion that we pass resolution, or I didn't.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Green. Any further discussion? I want to note for our staff that it is important that we come back, we'll discuss more today, to this idea of being objective and thoughtful about how we evaluate the property management aspect of our deals. We've heard a little bit about construction standards, and your idea of a third-party physical needs assessment makes a lot of sense. And what's better further. This is yet another type of deal that is new for us. And as we've been doing this, I've been kind of reiterating the few things to look out for. The thing about acquisition, and I just want to highlight it because Mr. O'Hare said it, but it's very important. This is how we can do rent stabilization fast. And so as we develop our policy and intuition on this, one of the things we want to talk about is how do we know this is where spatially we want to do rent stabilization? Is there rent stabilization that is cheaper to procure, right, than other rent stabilization? And is there a time where rent stabilization is incredibly high value to us relative to the market? Because we feel that either in a sub-market or a part of town or a property type, the market is not going to provide affordability. Since we're at the beginning of a lot of our policy development, right now we're just approaching this as this is a good deal. It provides some stabilization, it provides some revenue, it provides a bit of speculative upside for us for reinvestment. But I would not be surprised that if as we do these, we recalibrate and say, oh, here's a few things that we want to do differently. We've already heard today one of the things we want to start thinking about is how do we support and value property management. We already know that we support and value construction. I feel ready to support this. Unless there's further discussion. No, no seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye, aye. All opposed? Abstentions, okay, yeah, carries. We're gonna move around the agenda a little bit.
Thank you all so
Thank
much
you,
for your
guys.
consideration and your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you all so much. I'm really looking forward to working with you all. Thank you, Keith and Braxton. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
We're gonna move it on the agenda a little bit, because we have a special guest from our sister organization, Patsy, here today. And that is Mr. Subra and Nayani, who's gonna talk a little bit about our financial report. Some of you recall from our previous, or SHFC 1.0 or 2.0, whatever we are now, 3.0, 4.0, Subra from time to time would brief us on the financials. He wasn't here last time, and soon we may not have him be able to come as much as we would like, because he will return to the specifically to our hot seat. So I thought it would be a good idea, since we are potentially decoupling fully next month, to give for him potentially one last time. So it's so nice to see you. Well, will you walk us through the financial report?
Yeah, good afternoon. So, there should be two financial statements in the packet, one for December. That's a fiscal year ending December, and that is also one for January. There will be an audit of fiscal year 2023 in the coming weeks. The audit is supposed to be on site in the first week of March. What we are looking at is the December financials, which is for the whole fiscal year. So we earned $4.4 million in revenues, and I think we expended $518,000. Our expenses were $518,000. So we netted, our provision for reserve was $3.8 million. So could you go down a little bit? So this is where we got our funds from all the different partnerships. And you want to go down a page. So this is pretty simple. Go down a little bit further. So we got most of the funds is in textbook. I'm sorry, I don't have my computer. It's been couldn't log on. So we do have that $4.2 million sitting in reserve as restricted cash. That was is the proceeds from the sale of Rosemont, and we have $3.3 million unrestricted also at textbook. What I did at the end of the year, we have an accounts receivable $763,000. What I did at the end of the year was book an entry. We did get funds in the early part of January. That was for the previous fiscal. That was for 2023. So I accrued it to 2023. I just didn't want to have the auditor come and tell me, oh, you should have approved this, so I went ahead and approved it. The downside to it is that, you know, it would look like, you know, you didn't make that money in 2024. It was actually received in 2024, but it's 2023. And I knew about it, I can estimate it because we got a check. A lot of funds that would be coming in the early part of 2023, coming 2024 would be for 2023, but at this point I don't know, so I don't approve them. But if I know that before I post it, I will reach you. So go down a little bit. So it's looking very healthy. The equity is looking very healthy. The cash balance is looking very healthy. So 3.3 million, that is it's unrestricted. You can go down to the January. report. So as you can see, since I included, there's no revenues except for the interest. From the tax pool. There's really nothing much, except for the, we would continue to book salaries until March 31st for several HATC staff. And also the rent, a portion of the rent until March. Go down. Go down a little bit.
Next page.
So it's pretty much gonna be pretty much the same, go down. That's the balance sheet, as you can see, the cash has increased because of the $700,000 that we received in January. I can open it up for any questions.
Director's questions. Yes, Director Weber.
Can I get a really high level elementary explanation of the note receivable line item? What does that mean?
Okay, those were funds back in 2016 when they converted one of the properties, or two of the properties, Eastern Oaks and Sea Oaks.
Mr. Lanley, I'm so sorry. When you say they,
Oh,
remember,
Patsy.
that's what remember, it's a new day.
Yeah, but to RAD, which is the program within HUD. It went from public housing, which is also a program under HUD. They converted to RAD, which is a different program within HUD. You are required to set aside funds in replacement for reserve. That's for repairs, future repairs. And that is what was estimated when they did the fiscal assessment back then before the conversion. So we had to set aside, Patsy had to set aside $1.5 million. But the source of the funds was strategic because Patsy, didn't do any deals at that time.
No facilities corporation.
Yeah, no, really, no. They did have, but they didn't do anything. And I think, Cliff might be able to add.
Yeah, that's right, the facilities court, this is the transactions back in.
Yeah.
Quite a while.
Yeah. So these funds is in a separate bank account. And currently it's being used. We are also contributing. We also have to make a contribution on a monthly basis. I think it's like $3,000 or $4,000 a month to maintain that fund for future repairs. So we are starting to use some of these funds.
Who is we in this?
Actually, I mean, the property has to contribute funds into the reserve. So this is that 1.5 million is funds owed to strategic. It was borrowed from strategic, we put it into this account so we could convert to RAD. And that was a requirement by HUD in order for us to do the conversion. So, and I believe it goes to 2036 or something. It's, the HUD contract is to 2036. So,
Who's in contract with that?
these two properties.
Okay. Yeah, I'm confused, and this is like, what? So Patsy owes us money, right?
Yeah.
How much?
1.5 million for those
2.3.
Yeah,
2.3.
Yes, 125
But it's always been denoted as uncollectible. So that's a grant.
Under whose authority, under what decision making?
I think there was a board resolution.
There was.
Words, both gonna be, I can't remember that, many people, at least, overlapping.
So. We need to talk about this at a future meeting. I wanna understand why Patsy has our money and when we're going to collect it. And, this is,
As you said, it was approved by the board at the time to fund the replacement reserves from strategic funds. Is that right?
yeah, so I wanna see the resolution, I wanna understand, what is our obligation, and then I want us to get around that.
That is an interesting item for discussion, and a set of items like that we have not been able to discuss. But we now are able to discuss. That said, our posture has always been to prioritize amicable operational decoupling before discussing any additional externalities from our partnership. And we are very close to that operational development. Per the budget that we adopted with the refusals in December, the goal was to decouple in a month. And as Mr. Nayeli here indicated, we will stop compensating Patsy at the end of March for staff. Moreover, Patsy now, as well as us, can, without any conflict, send a letter to each other saying the item is over at any point in time. In my reading of the ILA. So that decoupling is eminent. Patsy, in their wisdom, has not requested any negotiation of terms pre-dissolution. And so these kinds of topics, since they have not been settled, may be revisited then. What I would encourage is for us to conclude our operational decoupling in as amicable way as possible, and then revisit something. Director Winnie and myself have been aware of this item for a bit, but it has not been an opportune time to raise it. Moreover, the accounting for the different transfers, as you know, was a topic of interest of mine from different correspondence that I sent Patsy directors, some of which used to be you all, but I actually never received any response to that. So that may be a topic that we should consider. Yeah.
Thank you, I would really like to.
Are there any other questions about the balance sheet or the statement provided?
Yes, I was aware of this previously, and Super, you and I exchanged emails about the question when I first discovered it. Just a quick note, is there any indications that HUD is reimbursing Nancy for those funds? Because that was your initial.
Yeah.
If that reimbursement might be coming, and could we just keep an eye on that for further discussion after March?
They, HUD has said they wouldn't release.
No.
Yeah, because this 1.5 was estimated based on the conversion based on not doing any improvements. That's why the reserve is so high. Because when they converted, they did not intend to do any renovations, but then subsequently they received a tax credit allocation, COs received a tax credit allocation, and Eastern Oaks was also received EDHCA funds for renovation. So both properties were renovated. And about a year ago, we did a follow-up physical assessment, and the consultant said, you don't need so much reserves. it could be far less. So we used the physical assessment report, we submitted the new physical assessment report and asked them to release the funds. And HUD said, no, there is no policy to release the funds. What we could do is we could suspend the monthly contributions. So that's what that's what they will do going forward. They suspend, you don't have to contribute,
They will use.
yes, it doesn't have to. Yeah. So.
Any other questions about the financial statement presented?
I don't see them in the January board reports, they might be there. Did we get like a 2023 review of financials? Did we hit our budget targets?
It was 2023.
Sorry, 2023.
I think it's less, the revenue targets are probably 20% less than what, if you want to go up, can you go up to the December?
That was it. This one.
Yeah.
So Director Becker, just as a reminder, we have an adopted expenditure budget and we have a revenue projection. And so a revenue projection has for this year and the immediate year that we're about to discuss, our revenue projection has been here. And our budget is in here. So when he's saying we did a miss on the revenue forecast, that's to be expected because of some of the volatility in how we forecast. That's different from we spent more or above our budget, just to clarify the terms. Because we're an enterprise as opposed to a government, our revenue could potentially exceed our budget, which is a budget of expenses. And I think that's something maybe a little bit quirky if we're used to municipal or county budgets where it's like we spend every last cent. And if we are lucky, we add to our general fund reserve. Here we've got a forecast based on development activity and other income and an expenditure. So what you would say about the revenue forecast was off.
Yeah, you want to go up a little bit? So on the revenue side, we are like 80% less than what we from what we projected. So it's pretty much one. So.
Name names, Mr. Mayor.
It's Bill Fisher with Price.
Rise.
So.
Yeah, so 4 million on projected, no, 3.9 on projected 4.7. Now, we did then receive for 2024 that 760,000 in January. That will.
No.
Oh, this does is included here now, that's right, it was updated, sorry. So 3.9 million in revenue. Now go ahead and scroll up, Debbie, please.
No, it's 4.4 in revenue.
That's the
3.8 is in 3.9 is in the profit, net profit for provision for reserve.
oh, I'm sorry. I see, yes.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, Surya, thank you so much for being such a good steward of SHFC while it was under your care. It's so nice to get to see you again in the event that we don't see you for a while. I suspect you will be hearing from us from time to time, and I personally really appreciate the support that you've shown Ms. Gray as we do this interesting transition. I think both organizations are likely to have a much brighter future as a result of it. And that is in no small part because you have been such a reliable student of your finances. Thank you, and I respect that you have a lot of obligations, including personal and perhaps me, so since we are done asking you questions. You are free to go, although you may remain if you want to hear some interesting conversation about SHFC. But again, thank you for everything that you've done. Seeing no more discussion about our finances and that we are very close to our 90 minutes, we are gonna have to be expeditious with a few other matters that please have a quick review. I want to go back to our action agenda and discuss fluid departments. So Mr. O'Hare, is this you as well? Okay, sure. And Mr. O'Hare, because we are at our 90, all of us, I think, will turn our website setting from 7 to 5.
We got it.
You got it?
Okay, we have, Blue Ridge Apartments is a property we are, new construction development that we could be entering into with government capital. We currently have, 3 deals, with government capital. They have been performing well in their construction activities moving forward. And, you may have heard of those properties. They are, younger and, then. Want to be this one. Blue Ridge, this has been a deal that's been for a long time. We were gonna bring it to you last week, but the documents were not quite ready for full approval. Everything else has been negotiated, the documents are substantially complete, substantially complete. And, aside from, a few little language changes, I'm sure the attorneys will go through between now and closing. This deal is pretty much set to go forward. It's located out in the Wild Horse subdivision, master plan community. We have already out there Wild Horse Apartments, which is completing construction on one side of 130 and on the southwest side of 130. This property will be developed. Blue Ridge will be developed. 378 units, 178 one bedrooms, 199 2 bedrooms, and 48 3 bedrooms. This was originally done as a PIC structure and would not work under the new guidelines for that. I don't know the background that you need at this point in order to move forward, but we are seeking final approval for the execution of the documents at this time. And I'm happy to answer any particular questions you may have about the property. Otherwise, we have three representatives from Lincoln County here. If there are any legal concerns that you bring up.
And we're, if you know off the top of your head, when did the board authorize us to negotiate the MOU moving forward? It's been a while. You guys have seen this project.
October 7th, 2021.
Oh, all right. The glass stops.
Any questions on this one? Dr. Weber? No. So, this is the way we talk about these is a legacy tax credit on deal. We have typically referred to the significant safeguards for these deals. Staff has vetted it per our typical standards. We do in the future, as we all know, want to adopt a policy edifice as nuanced as on tax credits potentially, as we are building on workforce. But we have not adopted that, so this is within our precedent for action. I feel comfortable taking action. Seeing no further discussion, is there a movement to adopt resolution 2024-08? Moved by Director Weber, and there a second? Director Winnie, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Now we have to do 2024-09, also part of this deal. Is there a motion to adopt 2409. Ms. Reams, third second, I call Ms. Prince first. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any exception? That concludes action for today. Am I correct, staff? Am I missing any other action items?
No.
No. And so now we're going to, in the time that we have, turn to the Rosemont Tenant Investment Program. Ms. Prince and Ms. Reams, I want to give you the floor to talk a bit about what you want to accomplish with the tenant investment program. Just as context setting, when we were negotiating the sale of Rosemont, we went through various iterations. Once it became clear that Hayden Place was going to be a priority and not permission communities, there are certain things that we had put in our RFP that were mission focused and tenant focused that were becoming difficult to get Hayden Lay to agree to. So, to simplify, we took the money and we said we're going to use the money from a higher price to then do good things for Rosemont and county affordability. We have done one part of that through a discount that we incorporated in the deal at the requests of the United Tenants Organization and BASTA, as well as certain directors. And now we have to figure out what we want to do with the remaining allocation. As you saw, that amount in our balance sheet is 4.2 million. To clarify, that does not mean we made $4.2 million of road. It means that the cash after the mortgage was 4.2, but we still experienced a net equity loss at Rosemont because of all the funneling out of cash to repairs. I think sometimes this can be confusing, but we decided to do the right thing and instead using the 4.2 to just replenish our reserves and our equity to invest it for tenants. With that concept said, I wanted to just ask both of you kind of what are some of the things you're looking for from the tenant investment program. Ms. Prince, will you go first?
I would say that, we need to do something for people, that are negatively affected by the Erie storms. Because they weren't properly compensated for all that they went through and all of the losses. That being said, so maybe take a little detective work to find some of the people that didn't, that chose not to, for whatever reason, not to come with their mistakes. Until their places were repaired. So some people, we lost contact with after we left the initial extended stay. So they didn't come back and we never saw them until we got all separated. But we had some people that were, they were old members and they never got the admission to that. So I'd say that we do something for those people. There's people who were promised money from getting laid, like the 15,000 that they get if they chose to leave. And because the books were so bad, had those opportunities caps on. We had one person who didn't get any of it because they were told that they owed that money. So they ate up their 15,000. So we definitely like to do something for that person because that's not okay. So that thing that I want.
We have not worked with the whole Rosamond situation, we have a lot of open houses, miscommunications. Not connected responsibility we have, the residents were unaware of a lot of things, so they didn't know how to move in order to be heard. They didn't know how to move forward, they were afraid. There was a lot, happening to the problems. Besides that, it was like we were living in a natural necessity of being risky. So over and over, we were faced with the same fear. There were residents that were affected health-wise. There were residents that were affected. I don't even say this physically, there were no laws for it, and there's some people that are still living in condition right now. No laws or mold or sick children or sick elderly, because it's, and those are the people that we're gonna reach out to, the people that feel like they were forgotten. That feel like Rosemont just let them down, more strategic, this was not there. We don't want those people to go on with that image of us. We want them to know that we do care, we care again, we just couldn't at the moment. So I mean, I guess that's not enough maybe to make that I could produce for those people. But if there's something you could do, I would mostly appreciate it for those residents. I saw the hurt of these families, the pain, the kids, the children not understanding what they were going through. Even now, the kids that stay behind, they still don't want to leave. So we cannot fault them for that being their home. It's gonna be difficult to reach out to them because they're gonna go, oh, guys, we forgot about you. But I would like to let them know that we didn't forget about them. What other directors want to
That's good, how do you do this? How do you find people? We do not advertise this on Facebook, we need to hire an investigator, we need to, I'm thinking of all the ways I find people in legal cases. That's on a tweet, that's review it, right? Call me, like.
We can start with, we should have this, those that we did have that were affected, and we should, what I mean, we can come up with a great list, because we should have every name from back then, that's, we may not be able to reach everyone, but we can start with that list.
So is this something that staff can do, or the board members need to like plan a retreat to work on it together? I mean, how do they get established started? I mean, there's a spreadsheet of everything. At the start of the spreadsheet, sounds to me. Because I also want to know who was affected. Me, they not know where they live or their current email address or whatever, but I mean, we have their legal names because they're on leases. They're not homes. We can track them down.
I have we had a couple, family, if I'm not mistaken, that was really in Rosemont, but that was informed to not pay rent by management. And that management person ended up getting let go or ended up quitting. And this lady still has this amount that she owes. And I kind of like, she was misguided, and now there's this big amount sitting over their head. They can't even get a place or anything if they had to. So it's so difficult, like maneuvering through that, because what do they do? Like, I don't even know how to tell them they need to calm down, it's gonna be okay, because something like that is like really. We don't want to be like
Why would Anthony tell them not to pay? And put them in the debt like that? And I can believe in she, Mr. Bristol, Jerry Bristol at that moment. And was misinformed, and now they're in debt, and they're looking for help.
Speaking for the future, maybe, and I don't know how this shapes out, but some sort of tenant education, so tenants going forward always know to put it in writing, so there's proof. We should teach everyone this, maybe require to send out the text to people who get on info, always in writing. We don't have in the future. I think one of my suggestions for tenants.
A lot of people don't know that.
I know.
So actually, I think even in that case, really like there's like emails, but again, like. It was a capstone manager, whether it got like, who knows, right, and like. Somewhere in it, like there's like some email saying it, but it's real, and now he is paid, then you moved out, I'm not giving you your $2,000 because you owe back rent. All of these months, so it's really nice.
Well, I think, in terms of our process, I think this will be tricky and, it will take some time. The good thing is we have the resources and the will to do it right. I think what might be beneficial is March for our staff to come back with some options, different flavors of how to do things based on further consultation with partners and reps in particular. And so a process of my work is staff draft something like this, share them with the tenants, provide feedback, and we discuss them preparing for action in March. A few things that we've talked about in the past. One is, for the moment, SHFC remains a 2.5, 3 FTE organization. As you saw in our balance sheet, we have resources. And we always have committed them to this. And so we can do things. It might make sense to procure trusted capacity to do some of these complicated things. There's some proactive work we can do in terms of developing the list. Maybe getting whatever capstone has from them, not as the set source of truth, as a clear departure, referring of truth. And then there's different things that I'm hearing that are important and defining what we're gonna do. One is, we're talking about compensation. So we're talking about direct compensation. Very important to understand what that means, because we're not saying, let's have a program that someone can voluntarily join. We're not saying we're gonna go and build some housing somewhere, maybe. We're saying, let's first take care of the compensation part. And that means, direct provision of funds to a class of people who are injured. And so that's the second thing that I'm hearing. It's very important to focus on folks who survive the experience. That's sort of the primary class. There might be other groups, including current tenants, but the primary class we're going to focus on is people who survived the experience. And the third thing that I'm hearing is there's different levels of harm. So there's a baseline level of harm for some people. Then there's some folks who had deeper verbal promises, some folks who have particularly unique damages. And so we're gonna have to figure out what are the general things we should do for everybody in the class. And the affected group and the different classes of affected groups, but maybe a mechanism for these particularly egregious, thorny, or difficult cases. So staff, as you prepare options, I hope that you will hear those requirements being provided by the tenants, because I think that they will impact our program design. I will personally say this, as a director and a person that cares very much about this organization, and not adding to the trauma from the Roosevelt survivors. We have to invest time in designing something good, so that when we do it, it's relatively orderly, relatively clear, relatively fair, and we're done. Because my sense of what, one of the things that was just compounding the trauma was the sense of it dragging on forever without resolution. And so we have to kind of spend the time upfront, I think, to come up with something that is good and fair, even if it's imperfect. To execute it well, instead of sort of blundering, and learning and saying, oh, be patient while we figure this out. It's gonna be clear path. Second, a model that I think is appropriate for us is the city's rental support and rental relief programs. I know someone has as an NGO led some of those efforts, and I think they're a very reputable organization. I'm open to evidence being presented to change my opinion. But we may want to have a partner in this. So that it is not SHFC brutalizing people again, disappointing them, but rather us writing a check, giving it to a trusted community partner. And saying, we've designed a good program, we'll execute it the right way. And just help us do this right. Finally, and in consultation with council, I think it would be appropriate in the right way to formally apologize. We've never done that. I know it is tricky because of legal world, but it is important symbolically and in terms of representing the community to address what happened and provide a sense of closure as best as we can, but formally indicating that we recognize that we underperformed, harm was done, we're trying to fix it, we apologize. Sometimes the symbolic and emotional things can be more important than the cash, but obviously the cash is so important. If there are no additional comments, I think we'll go in the direction from March, Director White.
Yes, I just wanna reinforce again, because I know our interim executive director was not here at that time. That I think any board member is available to in addition to the 10 board members. Because we all feel pretty strongly about this, you're hearing it voiced very eloquently by our chair. But we do want in some capacity to make this right, that's not gonna be possible. But what's the level to which we can do something in a good way? And the apology is important, and the fact that we demonstrate some level of accountability, like that's important to me in this process. And if you have any comments on this assignment we're giving you to come back on, are you okay?
Yeah, so what I would say, as I've listened to you, when I think about kind of our role as staff, how we interact with you, it's my job, our job, I think, to execute on your values, which I think are very clear in this space. And then we look to you to give us guidance on policy, and you have a fiduciary element, right? So I see this March presentation mostly as about, here's what we're thinking we want to do, right, for the people and how, and kind of what the guiding principles are. The tactical and logistical piece of how we get there precisely, I think we'll need to follow that likely. And so absolutely, we have talked about a few different partners, some of whom we believe, including Boss, have information, right, about residents. So I think we'll be triangulating multiple lists. And I absolutely agree, it needs to be, we need to do this. We in the short term are not likely to have the bandwidth to knock doors, although we're willing to, right? And so we look for partners that can help us really run a lot of energy and communication at this, in a way that hopefully gets us most of the folks.
Okay. let's make sure that we have some good options for March. Are there any other comments, Ms. Ranger, Ms. Prince, you want to make on this? Do you feel that we are on track for some March ideas that might be useful for you all for that?
Great.
Okay, all right.
And we'll be more than happy to do some of that footwork or most of it, whatever's needed.
Thank you. I'm excited for us to get in a better place. We've been delaying this for a while. I know that there will be moments of frustration and anger. But I think at the end we'll say, no, we did it. It's pretty good. We figured out some of the things we want to do. And we have tried our best to restore people. And I hope that both of you feel very empowered to shape our direction. If at any point you're doing nothing further, that your preferences are being reflected, just press the red button and say, I do not like this. And we will reassess. We are going a bit long, and so I want to go to the board development briefings. And so we are going to sacrifice some round communication for today. Do we have Ms. Gray, folks that are doing presentations on Robert's Rules of Finance for SHFC articles of incorporation that are presenting today?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Damon House and Lee will present on, on section 394 and articles. I was going to do a brief piece on Robert's rules. I will not, my feelings will not be terribly hurt if we don't do that. So I will prioritize.
We have a mind meld, so why don't we move to housing finance corporations? Let's talk about LT 394, and then we'll do articles of incorporation. If I were to provide some feedback, the 394 discussion is 3 times the importance of articles. So verbosity on 394.
I think we have them.
Yeah. Thank you for preparing this. This was wonderful.
Chris Sayers, board rep, put one, me and Laura put this presentation together, we can keep this super brief. 394 is a chapter of the Texas Local Government Code that the legislature created in order to give cities and counties power to do things that they don't ordinarily do in their purview, and specifically to further this public purpose that's written up there. It's gonna sound familiar to y'all, but it's the decent, safe, sanitary housing and affordable prices for residents, in this case, of Travis County. And so it gives a lot of powers and a lot of tools to housing finance corporations that are created under. Y'all, just as a quick history lesson, the Commissioner Court of Travis County created PPK in 2004. Articles of incorporation were filed almost immediately after that. The articles of incorporation are like 3 pages long. It is very, very simple.
They are in your printers.
Yeah. Those have not changed. Those are kind of easy peasy. The bylaws contain some of the meat and bones of the kind of how government stuff works, how elected officers are roles. I think they're gonna have a different presentation maybe at some future date on the bylaws, so I'm not gonna bore you to death with bylaws discussions. I'm happy to answer your question about the articles of incorporation, but I don't know that warrants a huge discussion right now. For the SHFC powers under the act, to jump ahead a little bit. This is perfect. I mean, so this slide, these are specifically enumerated powers, tools that y'all have in your toolbox, so to speak. These things read together means y'all can do pretty much whatever you want with multifamily housing, development, operations, finance. You have a lot of tools to play with that. You can borrow money, you can loan money, you can spend money, you can you kind of have a lot of lot of different mechanisms to get to where you eventually want to go. So moving to the next slide, these are some of the kind of historically most powerful tools that y'all have and kind of most commonly used tools that you have. The first one is the property and sales tax exemptions. This can be used in conjunction with tax credits, in conjunction with bond deals, in conjunction with just workforce deals, like we talked about with Langdon and Walnut Creek, or Blue Ridge on the bond tax credit side. You can use this tool. Any property that the Housing Finance Corporation owns that is used for a public purpose is exempt from state level taxation. So that is ad valorem taxes, property taxes on these multifamily developments is kind of a big piece. You also qualify if you serve as either a general contractor, and then you would hire a prime subcontractor that would handle the activity out there on the job site, but you could serve as a general contractor and hire a prime subcontractor under you or a joint venture partner to get sales tax exemptions. So you wouldn't have to pay sales tax on construction materials that are used in the construction or rehabilitation of these developments. So the property tax tool is a bigger tool, as you saw, as Langdon and Walnut Creek Field, for example. That's a lot of money. It's a big tool, and the statute is very broad. Under the statute, you basically only have to have 90% of the units at what y'all determine as low to moderate income. I think I've seen it as high as 140% or 160%. Y'all have traditionally not strayed above 120%. I think that's kind of the, I don't see that anything above 120 a whole lot. The only reason I'm saying this is I want y'all to know you have really broad authority to enter into these property taxes and fees. That doesn't mean you should do that, or there's a lot of financial and there's a lot of political risk, and whether that actually serves y'all's purpose and your mission, that's kind of a separate discussion. But the property tax exemption piece, I'm spending a lot of time on this one, is it's a very broad, powerful tool that y'all have. You can also issue conduit bonds. And Debbie, you can start going through some of the slides. There's only, I think, 2 more slides after this. So the conduit bonds, this is like on Blue Ridge. Conduit means essentially flow through, and so y'all don't retain any liability. These aren't general obligation bonds, these aren't debt of an organization. This is just y'all basically borrow money at tax exempt rate. You loan the proceeds to developers who build or rehab a project or development, and then they take rents, pay you back, and you pay the bondholders back. That allows developments and developers access to a tax exempt debt market with lower interest rates, which allows them to build theoretically better, nicer developments than otherwise would be possible. In exchange for this, there's a whole lot of safeguards in place in addition to what y'all negotiate. Federal tax credit rules, state law programs, the Attorney General's office approves these bonds. It has to go through the Texas Bond Review Board, which puts up certain parameters. These also have 4% tax credits, which have a whole bunch of different guidelines on them. So there's a lot of safety kind of rails along the way to make sure these deals have a lot of monitoring and compliance and kind of some set standards. Y'all can negotiate beyond that, but that's kind of the idea with the conduit bonds. It's a good way to get units on the ground at varying affordability.
And Chris, I think it's important to mention that with conduit bond fees, you're required to have private activity bonds to access the 4% tax credits for transactions just like Ridge. So they have tax credits that's going into THCA, but in order to access those, you have to issue tax bonds.
Exactly. That's a really long lead time item. That's a competitive market. Not everybody that wants to do it gets in the right place in line. Developers are incentivized to have greater levels of affordability to move up the priority hierarchies for getting volume cap and scope.
So sidebar, that in the future, we will be talking specifically about high-tech.
Yeah.
And the bond
Exactly.
process, so we don't have to go too deep today.
The next slide you can just own a development. Y'all done this before, you know, you can do this, you can have your own development, you can issue tax exempt bonds that pay for it that aren't subject to that process. You can just borrow money, you can take money you can have your own development, and you can put whatever restrictions you want to in that, as long as they meet the 90 to 120 level.
So this slide is one of the plots. This slide is a slide about our future and how we go from niche HFC to potential significant player, sawmill, model, etc. We can own a building where every rent is up to 128 a month.
90%, you could have 10% market.
90%, yeah, which means you could own a luxury skyrise and take the income.
Yeah, I mean, you could go above 120 in terms, but yeah.
So this is an important little subtle thing. Because we can, now, the thing is, obviously, the money doesn't go into our pockets, right? The money is for the public. And then we have to use it for the things that we're allowed to use it. But we can be an enterprise in the sense of owning these income generating real estate assets without significant restrictions on affordability. The affordability restrictions we're seeking on the license side are because of how license works. On the workforce side, there goes because of our fidelity to the total benefit ratio, but 394 consistent latitude. That said, we don't wanna be buying luxury skyrises and just having money in the balance sheet, because then the legislature would shut us down and change how 394s work. But the point is that we have this power. We discussed this concept of cross-subsidization through social housing. And this is where we are an interesting vehicle for that, because we can have a building that's half 120, 100 AMI, and use the income to cross-subsidize to the 30 AMI. So when we talk about it, this is what I've always thought we are an interesting vehicle. The second one is this issue bonds to finance acquisition and use other available funds. So in theory, we could go to private capital and say, we've got some special thoughts. At least, so this is not government funds, this is private capital, this is wealthy institutions and individuals, and say, we have a product, our social housing, that is low risk and decent return. In theory, right? Francis, I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And if we had a team of people who were good at raising that capital, we would be having money to acquire our bills in a way that we don't currently. It's just nobody does that. And because it would be hard, and nobody has come up with an idea. But in theory, because we can issue bonds, we could go on a roadshow and say, give us the money, we're gonna do something. Again, that's tied to some of the ideas we had about using our ability to generate income as a way around the fact that we do not have a permanent tax. And if you think about, we need to find ways to subsidize, stabilize rent, or build affordability. If we don't have a permanent tax stream, one thing we can do is enter into these different deals that bring in cash. Or we can go and try and find capital. Or we can be an enterprise and try and make money as a sort of public developer. So this is the slide that's very important for everybody to understand for the picture. Any comments on what I just said?
No, you can be aggressive and creative, and I think that kind of the sky's the limit with a lot of this. Just to clarify one thing, if you do issue bonds for this type of project or development that y'all are working on your own, there is an additional 50% and 80% requirement, but that is not a broad requirement for just borrowing money or finding capital partners, et cetera, and so.
That's for the essential purpose.
Exactly, yeah, or any bonds issued, if you can finance the development. With bonds that you own, or have a part ownership in like on Blue Ridge, doesn't have to meet an additional test of 58.
The slide isn't there right now, but did it say under it that we need impacts and some?
It doesn't. So any bonds that you issue, go or public securities that are required to get approved by the Attorney General's office, is essentially how it works. They have their own public finance division that we work with all the time. It's I don't know how involved it is or not. It traditionally, it traditionally hasn't been like a political review process. It's kind of a, do you need X, Y, and Z? If so, here's your name. Yeah, and then kind of the last slide here, you have other powers that, you know, kind of how you want to spend money, gap financing for some of these deals where the developers kind of, you know, they need a little extra money. There's a gap financing concept, or you can make either hard or soft money loans that are kind of repayable at different levels on the kind of capital stack or subject to cash flow. There's a bazillion ways to do it, but just know that if there's a deal that you really like, that doesn't quite pencil, you can make additional loans to help them bridge the gap.
Which one? It was a construction, putting together.
You can also make construction bridge loans, you can, you know, you can make, just give money to contribute money to deals through grants, you can make grants to certain organizations or people that they're the further mission. I guess last piece that I would at least mention, if you look through 394, there's a lot of single family programs that are talked about in great depth in there. There's a provision in there that if a county or city creates a second housing finance corporation, it's not eligible for a lot of the single family programs, and so y'all are not eligible for the big chunk of the single family programs.
Didn't know that. Didn't know that.
It's been really too expensive.
Yeah.
It's really expensive to do single family programs. TDHCA and TSHAC have statewide coverage on those, so they're really.
Yeah.
I really think two HFCs have some kind of programs, it's taken 8 to 10 years to really build up.
Yeah.
So can I ask a clarifying question on the income level? So 5880 for doing bonds. 90 at low to mod, as we define it, for anything, right?
For any deal that we have an ownership, essentially, and that can range from ones that you own the whole thing, right? Ones like Langdon at Walnut Creek, where you're gonna be GP landowner sort type.
So for future conversation, we need to get into that. My question might be, when we're doing these workforce deals and they're 50/50. The rent today, right, market rate that we're underwriting to, I'm guessing it's affordable at 120.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
for Langdon, I mean, they were well.
It's a lot of some of the slides that say market is.
It's pretty pleasing. But I don't know that we have anything in our agreement that says it must remain so. And so help, just as we move forward, help us navigate that we haven't inadvertently let go of something that, you know, that will keep us in compliance.
Absolutely, and that is something that we put in the regulatory agreements and other parts of this, that we're, like, our firm is legal opinion that it complies with these, and so we're co-incentivized with y'all to make sure here is where this says that you can't go over 120 or, you know, AMI, so yeah, that is something we're sensitive to.
Okay, dumb this down for me, what, 120?
120 of median, area median income. So
The market rate?
usually,
Okay, so.
Okay, that
So
makes sense.
it's, so the way that Walnut Creek, for example, is
Okay.
20% is limited to 60% AMI, 30% is limited to 80% AMI. And 40% would be limited to 120% AMI, and 10% would be.
So what you're saying.
Not the land, it's market, market.
Well, but actually, I just wanna slow down, because Langdon represented here, like when we just talk about it, we said 50% market, you know, then the 30-20, right? In reality, what you're saying is our agreements say that 50% already that we've claimed, that we've said is income restricted, 40% up to 120 and 10 truly market rate.
And they have to achieve those market rates.
Exactly.
Right now.
I know, it's unlikely that that is a problem, I just want to be.
Is 100% of the units are set at 60% unit.
Because it's a tax credit.
100%, okay, tax credit is always 100% affordable?
So.
Okay.
Almost always.
Almost, yeah.
It's much more deeper requirements from
They
the.
have much deeper targeting because they're able to supplement with those tax credits.
Okay.
So they're bringing in, I mean, roughly, I think, it's $1.7 million a year. Is being offered in tax credits that a tax credit syndicators purchase within the first probably 3 years of projects. So they're going to get an influx of cash beginning to do the projects. Set aside, they have the income average, 60% AMI. Most will do 100% at 60. That's really kind of what the market is right now, because you get a higher priority than 50%, kind of getting into earlier for the bond also. What a lot of those will do, some will do is they'll do 20% at a market rate, which will still come in around 80-ish. For a tax credit deal, and then they'll do a smaller percentage at kind of 50 or 30% to kind of get that average. Yeah.
Okay.
But overall, you have much deeper target tax.
Any questions on the other sheet? Oh, are you done, Inspector?
I think I'm done.
Director Whitting has a question.
I'm gonna assume I don't need to know this because you didn't cover it in your slides, and I'm confused about this thing that I think we don't need to know about. In chapter 394, section 902, it talks about housing for the elderly. Is that still a requirement? Has been since amended out?
No, it's a requirement, it's not, it's through Health and Human Services
Yeah.
now, the provisions, as you noted there for the set aside are pretty vague about
Yeah.
what does that mean, how do you qualify, nobody really knows, so everybody's scared that I don't know what this is, so I'm just gonna pay a fee, and so on all of these deals, they, in lieu of doing the set, I think we've had one where people actually set aside. Units for 100% senior deals.
Those fees go to health.
Exactly, yeah, we,
That's
when, one of the things.
Somebody's.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things on the closing statement is that fee. We literally seal the envelope and put it in the mail to Health and Human Services and make that filing for y'all with that check coming out of the bond proceeds.
I've only also one deal that did that, they signed up to pay a fee to the set aside, and they found out it's a yearly confirmation you have to do with the health and services, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that developer never decided to do that shit.
Later.
Probably fun to work with this. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on our 394 columns? Does everybody have a good sense of what makes us special? Yeah, okay, so I hope one of your takeaways is, we actually have some very interesting powers. And just because the way things have been done in the past is not the fully realized version of what we could be doing. But we also have to be responsible to our peers that if we do weapon stuff. Right, then the ledge or advocates might say, we're doing this the wrong way, and then as facilities corporations experience, get the regulatory. But so far, what we've been doing is to play the film.
One question.
Yes.
We have superpowers. What other HFCs in, let's just say Central Texas, like the 5-county MSA, have our powers?
What if
Who are our competitors? They have the same, correct?
So this is a quiz for me. So there's us, Travis County has its own sort of county staff, Housing Finance Corporation. Austin Housing Finance Corporation, which is the city's SHFC. There is, you said 5-county area, their area is actually more like 10, but Capitol area Housing Finance Corporation, now they work outside of Travis County. Who else? There is not a big list.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Travis County is strategic.
Well, TH, when you're thinking about this, we can do transit and stuff.
They're-
I don't.
They don't.
Right.
Affordable housing means a lot of different things, and so for some of these different programs, who can issue bonds, that's one set of competitors, it includes TDHA, T-Shack. Who can partner with. Do these kind of tax exempt partnership workforce deals within the city limits, that's kind of a different subset. Who are the other HFCs in the county? That's another, so it's kind of a tricky question, but there's a lot of competitors in each of these levels.
So we have to be,
I wanna be the best.
which is good. We're gonna have some pressure. Well, let's see,
I have a very good question. How, this is the best, how do the developers find out we're the best? Are we working with them? Are we a radio show? What is? Because if they have, let's say, I'm just, pull out a number, 10 options, how do they go about the selection process?
Some developers, the larger ones, like your LDGs and your ARPs, they are going to have the deals going along that over the course of a year, that they'll kind of cast the bread upon the water so that they're giving. They'll do a deal here and a deal there, and kind of scatter their developments around. That's in their best interest. For us, what makes us, one of the things that makes us attractive, or that we want to make ourselves attractive by, is the level of responsiveness that we have to our development partners, that we, and I know it sounds like a small thing, but it really isn't. The fact that we return calls, the fact that we have needs, the fact that we respond and provide answers to their questions, the fact that we have a financial advisor that is good at their function, their underwriting function, that they also know the players in the market, and that they have a comfort level, even referring or suggesting that a developer may want to come talk to us. The other thing is our performance. People talk in this industry just like they talk in any other industry. And if you have been doing a good job of being responsive, being flexible, and being accessible to the developer, they are cooperative, then you're going to stand a better chance of picking up developments. One of the things that, and I'm trying to keep it short, but I want to be meaningful to you. The development we approved today, Langdon, Matt and I had one conversation tonight, and I answer the phone every time he calls. I get him what he needs, he gets me what I need, and we keep the phone moving forward. And that being said, there is another development, they've already raised another $9 million capital, and they are partners with us again. As soon as they find a site. And another real quick example, the transaction that we're looking at, sale of a couple of our assets, that is owned by Daniel Betty, his development company. There is another developer that just got on our list of deals that are in discussion, who Dan has a relationship with the company, his development company, and he referred them to us to work with. And we've had a long-standing relationship with Dan. And it's the same kind of factors that that I was talking about earlier, developing and maintaining relationships. Aside from that, you have to be competitive with your terms, and you have to be able to be, you have to be able to react, to market changes. So that you're not coming up there with a lot of terms that they are not going to have to, that they can either be at an SHFC or SHFC elsewhere. And fortunately, right now, everybody has pretty much the same terms. So it really is your experience level with the developer, have they come to you, do they come back to you at the development? And you're showing that you are progressive in your thought process, and of course that direction comes from the board. But are we willing to consider different types of deal structures? That may have one or two differences from what would normally be seen. And are we willing to at least consider it from the standpoint of this is still a good deal for us and for the people that we serve? But flexibility is key in this industry. That would be my answer.
I'll add a little just that, I represent roughly 135 agencies around the states. I'll let you know that right now your workforce pipeline, you have the largest of any of the agencies that I represent.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the Austin, let's say, you're in Texas. It's a very hot button place for people that they want. There's no shortage of developers that's going to come to you. And I mean, last meeting, you guys did initial groups for 3 transactions. We did one today for workforce developers talk. They're going to kind of start to understand, hey, once they're getting open for business, they're going to start coming either continue to come down. So there's not really a lot that you can do other than just keep doing what you're doing, and you'll continue to get transactions presented to you. I think it is up to you all to be picky at some point on what transactions you want to move forward. There's a lot of developers who are moving forward. This workforce that really started coming on, but I think hotter kind of commodity probably about 4 or 5 years. Used to be a little bit more light tech kind of stuff. What we're seeing now with a lot of light tech builders started moving to these workforce structures. Now we're seeing a lot more market developers sort of moving to workforce structures. And it's a different, they have a different understanding of these transactions. They want more training on buying and keys in on how we kind of present the deal, what we can do to make sure there is a public purpose, because they don't really understand. So you're going to continue to have a lot of transactions potential, and it's really up to you guys to sort of understand what you want for these transactions and proceed the work.
So in the report book, you do have our status report on pipeline. Just very quickly, we've had 8 deals come to us in the last less than 30 days. So there is a lot happening. We will, some of those deals will fall out of their own weight. Some people probably go, maybe not. But there is a lot, and that's in addition to another 5 that are already in the pipeline. And so we are very. President, I was
Just so I know, okay, 8 come at us, they go at Hilltop, and Hilltop weeds out the ones that aren't even worth us looking at.
The dialogue between staff and Hilltop and others, you kick tires, right? That determines the does it initially look like we want to move forward and ask them to submit everything? B, can we get there by the end, right? The reason we may be kicked out of the room. And so I did want to just turn it back over to President Osborne and make sure we.
Yeah. 9 minutes,
Yeah.
and we have to be out of here at 2 o'clock, have to? No, they need the room.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So the last item of business that I do want to conduct today is the committee assignment that to be listened to record for real estate. The chair will be myself, and the vice chair will be Director Winning for governance, finance, and administration. And as the chair, to be Director Weber, and the vice chair to be Director Prince. For HR, the chair will be Director Prince, and the vice chair will be Chris Winning. Everyone that requested an assignment got one. When we have an additional board member join us, it is our tradition to visit the assignment for legality. There would be some shuffling. The assigning of 2 individuals per committee is a way for an individual to joined on an item by item basis, while still allowing us to voluntarily comply with it. All other items I'm going to skip. I did want to point out that we have a vacancy. I sent you all an email about taking a more proactive position on that. We will be in communication with the GF, the ExCom will be in communication with the appointed members of GFA to talk a little bit about the profile for appointment, since we do want to be proactive with that. Is there any other new or unfinished business that you said any director wants to put on the agenda for March meeting?
If it's timely and there's a return to the county commissioners board, it would be, we just monitor that timeline. And even since I have before, I just want to tell each and every one of you how much I appreciate all your involvement at the last commissioners court presentation. After we adjourned, there was so many people looking forward and said how much they were impressed by the organization and the positions. So, yeah. Good job, everybody.
Good job, everybody. I also wanted to point out a special little secret, since I hope you all did read the communication, and I hope we'll get to it. If you go to page 231, the book is essentially summarized in those 2 pages. So, if you need a little refresher before we come back. The secret is the book is summarized in the pages. I hope we'll have a good discussion. Seeing no further items for new or unfinished business, it is appropriate to have a motion to adjourn. Okay, the motion from Director Wedding, seconded by Ms. Green, all in favor, say aye. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.